Hello, and welcome back to Harriet's Custom Computer Art Plus. Took off some time for the holiday, but I'm back now and ready to get started on the party that I'm working on now, which is a Rapunzel party based on the movie Tangled. So today I'm going to show you how to quickly put together a 3D cake topper using just elements that you can find easily on the internet. I have found all the pictures that I want to use for this particular cake topper, and I already have them open along my base here so that I can quickly just bring them in, crop them out, add some shadows, and I'm going to put together hopefully this cake topper in just a few minutes. So first of all, let me bring up a blank sheet, and I know that I want to have a glitter background, so I just looked up a couple of different glitter patterns from the internet, and I think I'm going to go with this rose gold one because I want to use the luminaries from the background in the chip bag that I made. So I'm going to go first here to cut out in picture, add a colored shape. It's going to default to blue. I'm going to go ahead and hit done. Now I want to change this to a glitter background, and I'm going to change it to this glitter background. So I'm going to go to cutout in picture, and this time I'm going to choose fill cutout or picture, which is the second choice on the bottom row in the sub menu that you don't see here on my screen capture, but if you're using the software that I'm using, when you click on the different functions, it will bring up the submenus. And to see those, take a look at some of my earlier tutorials so you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. And then when you're working along, I always try to make sure that I tell you which one I'm choosing so you can follow along even though you're not seeing the submenus. Okay, so I have my colored circle here, and now I want to change that to a glitter background. So I'm going to go here to cutout in pictures, fill cutout or picture, which is the middle choice on the bottom row. Then I'm going to click on the picture of the apple, and now I'm going to go here to this rose gold glitter at the bottom of my screen, and I'm just going to drag it up by clicking on the left mouse button and then let it go once I have it in the picture. Now I'm going to resize this because I want it to be very obvious that it's glitter, and then I'm going to hit done. Next, I'm going to go to Special Effects Shadow, and I'm going to add a drop down. It doesn't matter whether you use left or right because I'm going to resize it and center it so that it has a little bit of that gray edge all around this circle. First, I'm going to lighten up that shadow a bit. I don't want it that dark, so I'm going to click here on Customize the Shadow, and then I'm going to take it, this slider in transparency, over until I have it kind of like a light silver. I did it a little too much. So just a light silver because I might not even keep the shadow on, but I just want to see how it's going to look when it's all put together. So I'm just going to put a light shadow there. I'm going to click from the corner and resize this circle a bit. Not too much, I just wanted enough so that it's going to show on all sides of my glitter circle so that even the sections that are white will have a border so you can clearly see the edges of my glitter circle. And I always print all my own papers, so you know I don't have to go out and get glitter stock and all these foil and metallics and all that. I just print all my papers, and they come out looking just fine, at least to me. And I haven't had any complaints from customers, so I guess it looks pretty good. Okay, so now I have that. That's not quite even enough, so I'm going to go back into Special Effects Shadow, and without having to click on anything, any other functions, I can resize this. So if you don't get it correct on the first try, you can go in over and over again and try to uh, get it just where you want it. That's not bad. I can always go in and fix it, like I said. Okay, next I want to use the portion of this background where the luminaries are. So I click in this tray It brings up the sub menu that you of course aren't seeing because of the screen capture I'm using. But if you click on this little image here, it brings up a small sub menu that looks exactly like this desktop. And I'm going to click on the background, which is the tangled background, and then it shows the picture here in the left layer, just like in the large picture. So I'm going to drag up just that picture from the small layers panel in that uh, submenu. And I just want to get this area right here. So I'm going to go to cutout and picture once again. I'm going to choose this time cutout of picture, which is the first choice on the first row. And then I'm going to choose with the cookie cutter shape. And I'm going to shrink this down from any corner, never from the sides or the bottom or top. Always use the corner so that you will keep the correct proportions. And I'm just going to drag it and capture a little of that blue and as many of the luminaries as I can within that circle. And I think that's looking pretty good, so I'm going to hit next. And right here, this is the first time I open the software, so I need to take that check mark out because I want to keep this circle on this page. If you leave the check mark in, it'll put it on a separate page and you'll have to drag and drop it into the picture. So I'm going to hit done. Now I'm going to delete this picture by right clicking and hitting delete. And now I'm going to resize this circle so that it takes up a nice portion of that glitter circle. And instead of putting it right in the middle, I'm going to offset it a little bit. I'm going to bring it closer to the bottom than it is at the top. Now I'm doing this. This will be my mock-up as well as what I use to make the actual pieces that I want to use for the cake topper. So I'm going to put a shadow around the edge of my luminary circle so that you'll be able to clearly see the edge from this orange or the rose colored glitter circle behind it. Actually, I'm going to go ahead and put the shadow on, and then I'm also going to, not that one, I didn't want that one, I want this circle. So all I had to do was back out of that so that I could get that edge back like it was. And now I'm going to click on the inner circle. I'm going to go to special effects shadow, which is the middle choice on the top row. I'm going to choose once again drop left, but I'm going to do the same thing. Actually, I think I'm going to go with the soft one this time because that circle cut has a smoother edge. Yeah, it has a smoother edge, so I can just go with the soft. And then I'm going to go here to customize the shadow, and I'm going to make it more transparent by dragging this top slider here, and you'll see it makes that edge more transparent as you slide it further to the right. So I don't want it that light. I want it a little darker. I think I'm going to go with the left drop down because I think I want it solid but a little lighter. So I'm going to do the same thing I did for the first circle. I'm kind of making this up as I go along. So this is being done in real time as far as designing it, and I'm going to make it more transparent. Not completely transparent, but just a little bit, and I'll soften it up a little bit so that I get more of a see-through look on that shadow. Now I'm going to hit done. Now because I'm on the chip bag, I put this silver edge to give it just a little more luster and make it look a little nicer. So I'm going to do the same thing with my cake topper so that it matches the chip bag. And I'm going to go once again to cutout and picture. This time I'm going to go to the third choice on the top row, add a colored shape, same one we used earlier, and then I'm going to go ahead and hit done and close that out. Now I'm going to go here to paint and color effects, and then I'm going to go to the third choice in the second row, fill with a gradient. I'm going to click here on what looks like just silver lines. Click there to make it metallic. I'm going to slide down and choose under click a style. I'm going to click scroll all the way down, and then it will be the third choice on the top row. And as you can see, it makes it look like a metallic coin kind of. or metallic sunburst. I'm going to go here to the layers panel and I'm going to drag it back one layer. And now I'm going to resize it because I only want it around the edges of my luminary circle. And I can offset that or make it completely go around. I think I'll just offset it. That looks all right. No, I think maybe I will make it go completely around. So I'm going to resize everything a little bit so that I can get the little silver edge all the way around my luminary circle. And then I want to lighten up this metallic background so it shows up better. So I'm going to click on Paint and Color Effects, change color, and I'm just going to click here on the darker or brightened function. Click up on it, and as you can see, it turns more like an aluminum silver and gives it kind of a shine. And I'm going to also put an edge or a shadowed edge around that. So I'm going to go once again to Special Effects, Shadow, which is the middle choice on the top row, and I'm going to go once again with the drop down shadow because the otherwise the edge would look ruffled, and I don't want it to look ruffled. I want it to look nice and smooth around the edge. So I'm just going to position that so that it's a little bit of that shadow around all sides. I think that, well, I let it go again. Let me pull that back in. Okay, that looks pretty good. And now I'm going to go once again to customize the shadow. And I'm going to make it transparent somewhat so that it will blend in more with the rest of the picture. All right, so now that I have that edge the way I want it, and I have it the same, pretty much the same amount around all edges of my luminary section. I can bring that out a little more. And now once I've chosen the luminary, I'm going to also choose the silver circle. I'm going to close this puzzle piece for just a second, and I'm going to shrink this down a little bit and then drag it down again so that it's offset within my glitter circle. Now the reason why I'm going to unlink this is because my luminary is looking a little, it's not looking so sharp. So I'm going to go in to sharpen that a bit by going to Special Effects, Blur or Sharpen, which is the first choice on the second row. And then I'm just going to drag my slider toward the right, and as I drag it, it will get sharper and sharper. And now you see kind of like that fuzziness that it was looking before has gone. And I'll show you by clicking on the back arrow. You can see the little difference. It looks kind of foggy there or fuzzy, and then when I finish and click my back arrow back, you can see that it's more sharp. So now the graphic that I want to use is this one that I found on the internet, and I love it when it has a solid background like this, and I love it even more that it's gray because his shirt is white, and if the background was white as well, I would have had to do a separate crop on his sleeve, but now I can just crop out the background and then use this image. So to do that, I'm going to go to cut out in picture, cut out of picture by color selection, and then I'm going to slide this all the way over to 0, and I'm just going to click in the areas that have that light gray and drag a slight line so that it will pick up all of that area. Do this under her arm, all the areas that needs to be invisible or to be cut out. So I have all the areas that I want to cut out. I can get in more on these edges if I want to. Oh, I need a little more between his shoes. And then I'm going to hit next. And as you can see, they're not sharp, they're not popping because I chose the background. So what you have to do when you do this, when you choose to cut out the background as opposed to cutting out all these separate colors, you're going to choose select opposite area. And now you'll see we'll be keeping the two characters. So I'm going to hit done, and now you'll see I have two layers here in my layers section. I'm going to delete the bottom layer, and I'm going to go back to our cake topper by left clicking on it it brings up the little sub menu. You're going to click switch to on the little sub menu, and it brings you back to this image. Now I'm going to grab my little tangled characters, left click them, drag and drop them into my image, and I'm going to resize them. And I don't mind that they're going to be, I'm going to let it come out a little bit because that will give it that much better of a 3D effect, because each of these pieces, I'm going to separate them and print them separately, cut them out, and then reassemble them so that I can assemble them in layers, and it will be the layered effect. Plus, I'm going to make it two-sided, so if the cake is in the middle of the table, it can have the same symbol on both sides, and I'll show you how to easily do that. Okay, so first, I'm going to put a shadow around them so that they'll stand out, and this will also, like I said, I think I said previously, this will also be my mock-up as well as what I'll use to make the actual item. And I'm going to group all of this by dragging from one side above all of the images to the other, because I want to bring it so that I'm not cutting off his head. Next, I want to put happy birthday to the birthday person here. And so I'm going to once again click on my chip bag, and right here at the top of this bag I have happy birthday to Leah, and I'm just going to click on that. It'll show up in my sub menu layers panel. I'm going to left click on it, drag it up. I'm going to resize it a little bit. Actually, I can have it just like that so that it's coming off a bit too. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to take away some of the shadow, because I don't like how that shadow is looking around the name. So I'm going to go back to, I just clicked on the puzzle piece to separate it from the top writing, and I'm going to go here once again to special effects, shadow, which is the second choice in the first row, and I'm going to do the drop shadow so that it will be solid and not looking all wavy like the other one did. And I'm just going to match it up once again with the Talia, with the happy birthday, so that it looks like it has the same thickness of the edge. And I'll just put that back there just like that. And now I'm going to group those again by just including those, dragging from the top of those and making those one again. So I'm going to hit the back arrow, and I've just made my layered cake topper. So what I'm going to do now is show you how I layer it. Once I do it this way, you see here I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 layers. And so what I do to layer it by to make my copies that I'll need to cut out all on one page, I go here to cut out in picture, add a colored shape, which is the third choice on the top row, change it to a square, and I make it white. Then all I do, I click done, and all I do, I'm going to drag this down one layer here in my layers panel. So I'm going to put it just under the writing, and I'm going to take my white square here. Actually, when I used to save a lot of them as a JPEG, I used to do it that way. So if you don't have a Cricut or a silhouette or a cutter, you can do it this way. And remember, once you do this, don't resize them, because everything is the right size that it needs to be. So if you're going to be cutting it out by hand, you would just keep everything just like it is. Don't resize it. And you would save each piece. Each time you would save this sheet, then you would drag that down to the bottom, take your white paper and drag it down one layer, and then you would save this piece. Once that was saved, you drag that down, and you give each one of these a separate name so that you'll have all your pieces separated and a unique name. And then you drag your white layer down until you've saved a copy of every letter. Now that's what you want to do if you don't have a Cricut and you have to cut it out, or a silhouette and you have to cut it out by yourself with some scissors. You would do it like this. But since I'm going to be taking mine into the Cricut cutter, I'm going to save each one on a separate page so that I can save it as a PNG, which is equivalent in most respects to an SVG, so that when you open it or upload it into Cricut, it would automatically have the background cut out and you won't have to do a crop. So I'm going to make another blank sheet, and this will be empty, no white. It doesn't have a white square to separate, and I'm just going to drag up each piece one at a time and save it. So I'm going to drag this up. I'm going to go to File, Save As. Here in the Save As type, I'm going to click on the down arrow, and I'm going to click on the bottom arrow that scrolls down until I get to PNG, or Portable Network Graphic. I'm going to click that Portable Network Graphic. I'm going to choose where I want to save this image, and I'm going to save it on my desktop for now. I'm going to give it a name. I'm going to name it Talia 1. Oops. And I'm going to save it. Then I'm going to delete this because I don't need it here anymore, and I'm going to go to the next layer, which in the topper, the picture of the topper, and I'm going to drag up the little character. And it doesn't matter if I resize these in here, because I'm going to, once I put it in Cricut, I'm going to realign it and make it whatever size I want. So I could either leave it the same size, or I can enlarge it, but I'll leave it like it was for now. And I'm going to go to File, once again, Save As, save it to, once again, the PNG, or the Portable Network Graphic. This time I'm going to click on the one that says Talia 1, but I'm not going to save it yet. I'm going to click here behind the 1 and change it to a 2. This comes in handy so you don't have to keep typing the same name over and over again. And then once again, I'm going to delete this one, go back and get the next layer, and you'll do that until you have all your layers done. I resize it. I'm not going to resize it. I'm going to leave them like they are. And once again, save as. Once again, I'll click on 2, change it to 3. And, oops, didn't mean to change it to 23. Change it to 3. And I'm going to do this for each layer. Once I have all these layers done, I'm going to upload them to Design Space, and then we'll be ready to assemble it. Now we're in Design Space, so I'm going to bring in all of my images by clicking New Project. I'm going to click Upload here on the left-hand side, Upload Image, Browse. I'm going to browse to my desktop, which is where I saved all the pieces, and now I'm just going to start bringing them in. So I'll start anywhere. I'll start with the writing. I'm going to always choose complex because I want to make sure all the colors stay the same as I have them, and it will make it look its best. I'm going to go ahead, I guess, and leave the shadows on. Now I'm going to hit continue. You see that it already has the background left out because I saved it as a PNG. Now I'm going to choose to save the one that is a print then cut. It will automatically default it to the name that you gave it when you saved it, and I'm going to click Save. I'm going to do that for each piece. Now I have all of my pieces uploaded into the Cricut's picture file, image files, and I'm just going to click on each one that I want to enter into my screen, and then click here on the bottom right where it says Insert Images. As they come in, I'll be able to see them, and there they are. I'm just going to collect them all, move them down out of that corner just so I can see them. So since I didn't resize them, they should be already ready to layer again so I can see how they're going to look. So I'll just need to move this to the back, and to do that all I have to do is click on it, And then here at the top where it says arrange, click on the down arrow, and I'm going to send that one all the way, move it backward. And I'm not sure whether you can see the, I guess I did resize some of these, but it doesn't matter. I can resize them in here. I'll do these together. So I'm going to do a back arrow on that. Couple of back arrows so I get it back to the size it was. And then I'm going to drag this layer up. Once again, I'm going to bring it to the front. This time by clicking send to front. And I'll resize it a bit like I had it in the other one. That looks about right. Then group those, bring them here on top of my glitter piece. And then once I have all of them in place, then I will resize the whole picture to the size I want to cut it out. And we already know that when we're using Cricut, you can only make, I didn't mean to do that, let me hit the back arrow. When you're using Cricut, you have to stay within the parameters of 9.25 by 6.75. So you'll have to keep that in mind as to how large you want to make your cake topper. But if I wanted to make it larger than that parameter, then I could do that easily by just resizing everything, and then I would probably have to do things in multiple cuts, like maybe cut it in half and put it back together. But I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to make this one the size, the largest I can make it within this app. So I'll bring that down a little bit. I'll make this a little smaller so I'm not covering up as much of her hair. And so this is how my finished item will look. So I can leave it like that. I have everything in the right sizes, and now I can just go straight to first I need to resize this all within my print and cut parameters, and I'm not going to attach them because I want them to print out all separately. So I'm just going to go from the top right or top left and group it so that I'm getting all the images, and like 9.25 in, I'll put 9.25 in width because it's a little wider than it is tall. So once I put 9.25 in width, then I know that if my height is larger than 6.75, that I will have to decrease it in size. And now it fits within the parameters of the 6.75 by 9.25. So the measurements are 6.75 by 6.564. Now all I have to do is load up the kind of paper I want to use. I'm going to use glossy photo paper for the glitter circle and the silver metallic, and then I'll use glossy paper for the two characters in front, and I might just use matte paper for the Talia, happy birthday Talia, and I'll see how it looks with the luminary. I might want the luminary in glitter in a glossy photo, so I'll probably print everything in glossy photo except for the happy birthday Talia. I'll print that on cardstock with the matte finish, and that way it'll also give some depth to the whole image, and then we'll assemble it. So now I have all the pieces ready to assemble. I was going to make it two-sided, but then I decided I would just make it one-sided. So I printed out all of the pieces that I designed on photo paper, and then I resized it on the Cricut to stay within the print and cut parameters of 9.25 by 6.75. And I also had some black paper So I also cut the same shapes in black paper just to make these more firmed up. So what I'm going to do now is just glue each of these pieces onto the black cutout of them. So I'll move these out of the way a little bit. Put this down. Oops. Try to make sure I don't move it as I glue one side. Now that I have all my pieces together, now I'm going to use these foam mounting squares so that I can give it the three-dimensional look. So for the first one, with the silver and the luminaries, I'm going to go ahead and glue those together. I want to center this in the middle of the silver shape, just like that. And this one I'm just going to go and hot glue together. And for the rest of them, I'm going to use the mounting squares. All right, so now I'm going to take my glitter circle and my luminary pictures. I'm going to grab a mounting square And you can use one or two. What I usually do is I cut these in half so that they'll go a little further, because they're very sticky, so they'll stay in place. So you really can cut them in half and some in fourths. And I'm just going to put one here and take the backing off of that one. And then I'll also stick one on the other end of there, right here. And then I'm going to leave that backing on for now, because I want to make sure to put this in the correct place. And remember, we offset that, or I offset it in the design, so I'm going to offset it here as well. So I'm eyeballing that. I'm just leaving a little bit at the bottom and making sure that it's even on each side. I'm going to press it against that foam mounting square that I cut, and then I'm going to pull the one off of the second piece, pull the backing tape off of it, or the backing paper that keeps it from sticking, and I'm going to stick that. So now you're seeing the little dimension to the design. Next, I'm going to take my characters and I'm going to cut up some smaller pieces of the mounting tape and place it in areas that will be touching the piece that I just finished making with the luminaries and the glitter. So I'm going to cut this into, actually I can cut this into 6 pieces. And this time, to give this a little more depth, I'm going to cut these in half once again. And then I'm going to place 2 of them stuck together so that I have another layer or a higher level of dimension on this one. So I'm just going to pull that backing off, and I think I'll place one here. And then I'm going to pull the backing off of that and place another sticker on that one. I can get that off with my terrible fingernails. There we go. And then I'm going to take a second one and put it on there so that it will give it even more height from the top of this luminary layer. And I think I will put one down here where the hair is. So that's going to be another couple. So I'm just ripping my tape off in advance so that I can just stick it on. So I'm going to put it right here, and then I'm going to lift that off, and now I'm going to bring this over, make sure that I have it turned correctly. And then I'm going to, first I'm going to see where I want my lettering. And I want, the way I had it, I think I had the happy birthday on part of her hair. So I'm going to have them raised a little bit above the luminary level. And I'm just going to tap on just those 2 spots so I'm not bending it all up. Actually, I think I want, yeah, that looks, yeah, they're centered. Okay. So now, last but not least, I have the happy birthday section. And what I'm going to do is, for this one, the part that meets here, I'm just going to put 1 square. So I'm just going to put 1 square just right there on the top writing. Pull off the paper backing. And then I'm going to, for here, I'm going to need a double because they're doubled, and then I'll need a third one. So for this one, this spot where the Talia's name is, I'm going to have 3 layers. So I'm just going to cut another one of my strips and then cut it in half again, because this way this will be all on 1 layer by me putting one layer here, and then I'll put the 3 layers here so that it will make it stand straight on the, or lay straight on the rest of the cake topper. So I'm going to put 1, and then I'm going to rip that backing off so I can put on the next 2. Wish there was an easier way. I guess there might be an easier way to get these tapes off if you don't have a lot of fingernail to work with. And I'm going to do 1 more layer. And this is how I do all of my dimensions. Whenever I make anything that I want it to look like it's layered or more of a 3D appearance, I do it this way. And you just have to keep track of how many layers you'll need to put on to make sure that everything lies flat on the surface that it's supposed to. So now I have the 1 here and then the 3 there, and I'm just going to center this at the bottom, and then when I put the 1 there and then press the 3 at the bottom, it lies flat. So you've just completed. You see how easy it is to make your 3D cake toppers. Now all I have to do is add a straw or a skewer to the bottom or the back. Add a skewer here, and you have a finished cake topper. Hopefully you have enjoyed this project. I'll show you how it looks with the stick on it, and I will see you next time. Thank you for stopping by.